Hi everyone, my name's John Dasser. I'm the Outreach Coordinator at Trinity College, Cambridge. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about outreach opportunities. So what they are, where you can find them, and how they're useful for you in terms of progressing to highly selective universities. In particular, we're going to be looking at Cambridge and Oxford today. So what is outreach? Well, essentially outreach are programs that provide advice and information about and experience of higher education. The idea is that they raise awareness and expectations, and they remove barriers and create pathways to higher education. So lots of progress has been made in improving access to higher education during the past decade, but unfortunately, wide gaps do still remain in participation for some groups. And there are large differences in the participation rates of young people living in different parts of the country too. Students need first-hand experiences, not just with higher education, to make informed decisions. So students with a limited family history of higher education can be especially vulnerable to misinformation, and this needs to be challenged. Engagement with universities allows students to make informed decisions and pushes students to achieve their potential. For those in year 13 or year 12, the focus might be on study skills during school closure, preparation and readiness for higher education, and information, advice and guidance about your final subject choices at university. These learners may also have concerns about the use of calculated grades at the moment, and we can talk a little bit about that too. For younger year groups, outreach might focus on curriculum support and making choices at Key Stage 4, so for your GCSEs, and then also for your A-levels. But also with younger year groups, outreach is predominantly focused around building confidence and raising awareness and expectations of future opportunities. So some of the big questions that I've just put up there, that outreach tries to answer: how do I choose university in a course? How do I apply to university? How do admissions processes work? But there are other questions too, which is like, which university is right for me? And can I apply to highly selective universities, which is particularly what we're looking at today. So I mentioned underrepresented groups. So we've already talked about different activities. The programs, as opposed to activities, tend to have criteria for students applying, and students will typically need to meet more than one. So each university may have different priorities and different focus, but there is typically a typical consensus amongst universities of what to look for in students. So some of the things that we look for example, are that parents or guardians or carers have not attended university themselves. We look at students in households with lower incomes, so maybe that you're on free school meals and or pupil premium at school, and this is a marker for us. We also work with students who have refugee status, who are currently in care or providing care, or indeed other circumstances. We even look at things like how your school's doing. So if your school doesn't get many students into Cambridge and Oxford, we're particularly interested in working with those schools because we're keen to change that. Other general flags that we look for are state school students and also ethnicities. So some ethnicities are underrepresented compared to others, and we like to work with those too. And there are all sorts of these different groups, but outreach is predominantly focused at helping them have access to university, just like other students do already. So where does it take place? So generally, outreach takes place either in your school or when you visit the university yourself. So often it's delivered in schools and in the community, but before Corona, we were delivering these face-to-face. Now with school and university closures, it means that we have moved to online provision. And I think going forwards, there'll probably be a blend between in-person and online provision because both have their advantages. For example, working with Zoom and video and webinars means that we can have a bigger reach across the country and also have lots of people involved on a call or a program. So outreach actually has a really important role to play in mitigating the immediate and longer term impacts of the pandemic, especially for the most disadvantaged students. And with these students and their communities likely to be most affected by the pandemic, it's more important than ever to make progress on access and success for all students, regardless of background. So a good question to ask yourself that I sort of mentioned that I'll try and answer here is, am I a potential candidate? So you might be thinking to yourself, what is it that makes me a good candidate for Cambridge and Oxford in particular? So what we really look for is ability to learn on your own. So to go out there and have a real passion and interest in learning, the focus and determination to go out there and learn it. And also some knowledge that you've gained from your GCSEs and A-levels through studying at school. It's really important that you think about taking the right subjects. So, if you want to apply to Cambridge and Oxford, you need to make sure that you've taken the right subjects. And as I said, we're really looking for that passion, that motivation, that enthusiasm. What I want to make very, very clear is that Cambridge and Oxford are looking for the brightest and best students. We are not worried about where you come from. We don't care what your background is. We only care that you're interested in the subject. And so we don't look at things like social, religious, cultural, school, financial, or any other backgrounds. We're just looking for students who show the most passion and interest. So what types of outreach are there? What do we do at Cambridge and Oxford, and what are there other things out there? So there's a variety in which schools and you guys can participate in. There's one-off events. So they're usually delivered in schools or colleges. They're typically short talks or workshops. There's things like, why go to university, how to do a good personal statement, student finance and budgeting, exposure to higher education, and reliable information on courses and on those universities. So part of this early entry program is going to be dealing with all of those types of things. Programs, on the other hand, so that's events. Programs, on the other hand, tend to be long-term focused. You often need to apply to these programs because they have a capacity for how many students can be part of them. They're delivered usually at the university campus, which might include things like summer residentials or summer schools. So you stay at the university for a number of days. In fact, at Trinity, we run 4 or 5 residentials, depending on normal times, and we're even running them online this summer. But another type of program that you might want to be part of is mentoring, which is a bit more personalized. So one-to-one mentoring with a current university student or a student ambassador who's really interested in helping you through the application process. Why programs are great is that they give you regular exposure to university, and so you get a really good awareness of what university is about and the application process, and you often get specific and tailored support and guidance which meets your specific needs. And often this dovetails with improvement in how you do at your A-levels or at your GCSEs in terms of academic achievement too. So I've talked about mentoring. We also outreach might form academic skills support. And what that means is help in terms of things like how do you reference an essay, or how do you write a good essay, or how do you do a good personal statement again, but skills that aren't necessarily linked to a particular subject, but that are really helpful. So like things like how to research, how to independently study. All of those things can be part of outreach too. It might be, though, that it's not a generalized sort of approach and that it's more subject specific. So even for one-off events or for programs, they could be subject specific or they could be broader. So for example, with our residentials, we have a combination of both. And we have residential for women in STEM, we have a residential for languages students, but we also have the Stonehouse residential for year 11s, which is much broader and covers general aspirational sessions alongside experience of lots of different subjects. So lots of different types there. And again, this could be in school or at university. Usually with subject-specific information, it starts a bit earlier. So it's usually available from year 9 onwards. And it might consist of things like masterclasses on that program. So going above and beyond what you learn in school, really interesting, really fascinating aspects of that subject. Maybe big quizzes, visits to labs and other site visits or museums. It really helps you to decide if the subject's for you. Again, also gives you an exposure to universities because you can see what their facilities are like what are their labs like, how will I study there? The final thing I wanted to just talk about is open days. Now, open days are when the university opens its doors to all its prospective applicants. So it basically, the universities are completely open, as you can see in the picture there, and it gives students to have a chance to look around the university, see whether it feels right, meet some of the staff and students that work there, and really get a feel for the university as a whole. And usually with open days, you can experience lots of different subjects if you like, or it can be tailored again to specific subjects. So how do you find out about all this amazing stuff to help you? So I put some links there alongside the images. So there's a number of different ways to find out what's going on. If you're looking just generally at universities, there's a website called Uni Taster Days, which I've put the link on there on the top right. It's an online platform on which universities can advertise all these activities and programs. It's an excellent resource for students and staff to explore the range of events available locally and nationally. Often acts as an introduction for a school or college to specific university run events. You can also check out the university's outreach website. So a good idea is simply to look up the university and type outreach. So two good ideas here. Look for universities that are very close to where you live, number one, because even if you're wanting to apply to Cambridge and Oxford, there's still some really useful information you can gain from other universities. However, for Cambridge and Oxford in particular, so you can see Trinity's website there on the top left. So we've got details of all our programs on there, alongside lots of other information on applying to Cambridge in particular, but also useful for Oxford. You can see there at the bottom, I've put two links. One is for Oxford events. So Oxford centralizes where they put all their events. So if you type in that link, you'll see all of the events coming up for Oxford. And Emmanuel, who we're working with on this early entry program, have an excellent website too, which summarizes lots of the events going on at all the different Cambridge colleges. So what those two bottom links do is stop you having to search for every single college and type outreach and find out what's going on in each one. So they've summarized some of the best things going on. So my advice is to just have a look there, because ultimately the educational sector can be a tricky environment to navigate, especially when it feels that universities are competing to get access to everyone. So what we're aiming to do here with those 4 websites is break down what's on offer and let you decide what you think would be best for you. If you're interested in a mentoring program, great, there'll be something there. If you're interested in something subject specific, great, there's something there for you too. One thing to really emphasize is that these outreach programs and events can reap incredible rewards, because your greater insight into university life and information on the subjects really helps support academic growth and success when it comes to applications. So strongly recommended. Finally, I just wanted to talk a bit about when you do take part in these events and programs, it's really important that you take something away from them by critically engaging with them. So what that means is, and I know that my colleague Finn has done a session on a video on supercurricular engagement, so they tie in together. Whenever you do something that goes above and beyond what you're doing in school, note it down, okay? Note down what you're doing, show that you've engaged with the process. And a really good way of remembering how to engage with all these different activities and events is ABC. So A is for activity. What did you do? The second thing is, how did it benefit you? How does it help you apply to the course or the university that you want to apply to? What skills or knowledge did you gain there? And the third thing is, how will this prepare you for the course you want to study or the university you want to apply to? So in a nutshell, that's outreach.